Movies have portrayed lots of real-life issues since the beginning of film. Looking back, we've seen powerful movies about psychology and sanity, issues of race in America, living in poverty, roles of leadership, and other films that seem to directly relate to what we might see in the real world. But there's a genre of film that isn't often discussed, trending on Twitter, or making it big in the box offices. And by seeing this, you'd know that the common thread is movies made about or surrounding the idea of climate change. But before I get further into this, I want to make my point clear. There are movies that have had success with the basis of the carbon crisis, animal preservation, or nature and wildlife in general. These movies have found ways to personally appeal to their audience, but they're not mainly based on the idea of climate change. It might be a factor, but not the main subject of it. With that said, Hollywood has consistently failed to make us feel powerfully towards a world matter that's actually a big deal. Let's face it, most of us probably won't get hunted down and murdered by an evil clown. I mean, unless it's fall of 2016. Does anyone remember that? That was weird. But the chance of facing a natural disaster that could possibly wreck the home, neighborhood, or town you know and love is statistically proven to increase with climate change and might actually happen to you. I mean, the fact that we don't care about it has been called out in mainstream media.
This story has been stressing me out all week. I just keep asking myself, why don't I care about this? I mean, don't get me wrong, I 100% believe in climate change, yet I'm willing to do absolutely nothing about it.
So it's clear that we know climate change is an important and very relevant issue in our society. It's a topic that directly relates to us, so why don't we care? This fallacy is due to our society's obsession with storytelling. We see many what would be effects of climate change in the post-apocalyptic themes of a desolate Earth that's no longer capable of healthily sustaining life in movies like The Road, A Quiet Place, Doomsday, or The Book of Eli. The effects of what would or could be suddenly become a story, with living, breathing villains and heroes to root for that arise from the dusty aftermath of what we can assume to be some kind of environmental crisis. But the issue that I think comes with this is that it's far too imaginative for us to consider these stories as a real, viable threat. They're post-apocalyptic. They're not realistic. No one has ever been threatened by a zombie or whatever those awful creatures in A Quiet Place are. They're just a few of the many villain templates set in our story-obsessed culture and have nothing to do with the threat of climate change, so we don't associate the two together. And a part of this issue is because we love our bad guys. We love the Joker, the Wicked Witch of the West, and the Terminator. We love their emotional complexities, the evil genius plot points that are part of some of the most epic movies we know and love. We love how they're developed, flawed, and in some ways humanized. It sucks us in and makes us feel connected to these movies. But it's hard to villainize climate change, something that has more than just one meaning, perception, and takes place in thousands of different ways. It's hard when your villain is heavy winds, decreasing Alaskan caribou populations, and more frequent flooding. It's just not that scary or emotionally compelling. An increasing world average temperature doesn't wear a mask or run around with a chainsaw. And taking this another way, there's no real hero in climate movies either. It's not like one single person can stop the overwhelming, staggering effects and twists that come with climate change. There's no hero and no journey. Even with the movies that feature social issues, we see that identity is a key theme that has a lasting effect on the audience. There's poverty and class issues, but also tied with identity. For example, the social issue of poverty is displayed with realism in the film The Florida Project. We watch these characters struggle to get by and keep what they know and love, and as an audience, we can identify with the traits of some of these characters. I finished this film with a greater sense of understanding to the lives of those who actually face these issues. I thought a lot about it after I finished it, and this is an important issue when it comes with identity in films. We, as an audience, can identify with this person, their struggles, and anything else that might come with it, leaving us with some kind of emotional tie to the film. But it's different when it comes to climate. If we look at probably the most famous climate change movie, An Inconvenient Truth, It's a documentary, broken down by the argument's sake, data and statistics, when it's harder to identify ourselves with or be emotionally connected to. And that's not to downplay the real-life effects, because they're real and they're already happening, and it's really not good. But it's just disappointing that the greatest, most powerful platform of mass media and delivery we have has failed us in serving up a story that truly makes us worry about something worth worrying about. We only see scraps of it. We see scraps of it in the desolate atmosphere of the apocalyptic movies that don't capture the reality of it. We see it in the climate documentaries that, broadcast the research statistics and natural effects behind it, but give us no story to consume or identify with that we so desperately need. So I guess the conclusion is that there aren't many climate change movies, let alone good climate change movies, because they're very hard to make. It's difficult to capture hearts on an issue that doesn't specifically target one person, group, or underdog that we can wear on t-shirts and interview on red carpets. It affects everyone in many different ways. The elusive nature of it makes it harder to follow, so I guess what we can take away from it is that a good climate change movie would have a good balance of the two. A story we can identify with, as well as a realistic picture of our future with climate change that we still associate it with. Because this is a huge issue, and I know it might seem like a minor observation that, there aren't a lot of climate movies, but again, Hollywood is one of the biggest, most influential platforms we have today. And if we get the right film, that's 1 million more people who will care and push for a change. And we can only hope that it will. Anyways, let me know what your thoughts were. Thank you for watching.